That's what I say about missing school days. If you're not learning, you're earning. You know, that's what I always say.
This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Canada.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
Anthony, are you in the flow? Are you in the zone? Are you in a flow state right now? Are you getting into it?
Are you asking if I'm hustling, if I'm on my grind?
What? I mean, I wasn't, but are you?
No, almost
Okay.
never. And when you want to talk about the flow state, also no, almost never.
Honestly, have you experienced the being in the zone? You know, the thing that people call being in the zone.
So the flow state, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to think of the name of the term came from a book.
That's right.
And I've read the book, and
the book is called Flow: The Psychology of Optimal Experience.
Yeah, but the problem is it's the doctor's name who wrote it is like so Eastern European that even I can't read it with my genetic makeup.
Give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot. It's I Csikszent Mihalyi. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, sure.
That's what Wikipedia says. Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago, passed away back in 2021. But a Hungarian doctor, immigrated to America when he was very young. But he introduced the concept of the flow state. I'm shocked at how recently it was. It was 1990.
Yeah.
1990. We had an entire Tim Burton Batman film, and no one had thought of the flow state yet.
Nobody, let alone Jack Nicholson.
Right. Who clearly is in the flow state in that movie.
Yeah.
Where will they get a load of him, you know?
Yeah, Jack Palance, I think, was about to talk about the flow state in that movie, and then he got murdered.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Not in real life. But
No.
but yeah, I've read the book. I understand it. The idea is that there's an optimal state we get into when we are doing some sort of work, whether it's enjoyable work or not. But the idea is we're operating at a level where we're just in the zone. We're not really consciously thinking. We're just sort of like doing things. Our brain is braining, our body is bodying, and we are not getting in the way of that. We are just sort of doing it.
People describe it as being very pleasurable. It is an optimal state of performance. You talk about athletes who sort of lose themselves in the performance. They're just acting. They're just, Michael Jordan turning to the camera and putting his arms up like, I don't know how I'm even doing this. How is it even happening? You talk about actors losing themselves in the character, kind of not consciously thinking, but just being in the moment, in the zone. Have you ever, in any facet of your life, experienced that sensation?
Yes, I do. It's interesting because I think a true flow state for me is maybe not rare, but it's tricky because I'm also prone to hyperfocus because of ADHD, which can very much feel like being in the zone, but it's being in the zone in the wrong way for the wrong reasons, which is odd. Like, like I will get into I'll get into a weird hyperfocus. I don't know, like organizing like papers. I'll get into like a weird zone of organizing papers that don't need to be organized. Right.
You're like locked in on that activity.
I'm locked
to the exclusion of all else.
But I think the times when I first felt it and when I felt it the most and still do is when I'm drawing. When I was a kid, I was an art student, and that is definitely something where like I will sit down and start drawing and just kind of get into it. And boom, like an hour goes by, 2 hours go by while I'm drawing, and it's fun and it's good. And it's, when people say it's enjoyable, like, I don't know if it's even enjoyable in the moment. But when you look back on it, you're like, oh, cool. Like, I really do think of it as like the positive version of a fugue state almost.
Yeah, right. That's how people describe it too. It is this, you kind of come out of it and you go, oh my gosh, that felt so good. I don't know how I got into it. I lost myself. It's almost meditative. It's very, a loss of consciousness, self-consciousness. You just sort of in the moment, in the zone.
Yeah.
And
the whole idea of it, I guess, is when you're like, there are ways to actually force yourself to get into the zone. And one of the things they talk about is a lot of people think that being in the zone requires like, you're not stressed, you're calm, you're having fun with work, you're doing the, but that's not necessarily true. Like there's a type of stress that's good. Like it's eustress is what it's called. And there's this idea of like, to get into a flow state, you should be operating a little bit above your own level. Like you need to be like a little stressed out, a little challenged, but not too challenged. Something can't be too easy and it can't be too hard. It can't be too much work or too little work. It can't be, too unpleasant or too pleasant. It's really weird. It's like, it's unfortunately turned into the corporate version of Zen. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, he's really in the zone. She's really in that flow state. She's really doing it, like filing those reports. Like it's turned into the corporate version of Zen. It's like, I don't know, man. I just sat down and I started working on that pitch deck.
Got in the zone.
I got in the zone on the pitch deck. It's like, no, Barbara, no. Not on the pitch deck.
I think that the ideal version of the flow state or being in the zone is this sort of very positive, very pleasurable sensation of like an intense creativity or intense high performance of whatever it is. But it tends to be described as something very desirable. You want to achieve that state because it is optimal performance. It is a really good feeling.
Yeah, we were built for it. We were built for to be focused on, well, at the time we were built to be focused on survival, but focused on survival in a way that's like things aren't too terrible. The woolly mammoth is not chasing me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The woolly mammoth isn't chasing me. I'm just hunting food, and I know there's enough food already. And so this is kind of tough, but it's not like so stressful for me. And I'm doing what I'm built to do. My body is hunting, whatever it is. I'm gathering, whatever I'm built for. I was wondering, you're a theater guy. Would you describe like theater that way, where it's like you start doing a show and then you don't even realize you've done the whole show? Like I've had that happen.
I definitely have had that happen. Also like improv shows, you'll get in a situation where you're like, I didn't consciously think of that thing. It just happened. And we all kind of, as a group, kind of got into the zone, and nobody was forcing anything. It was all really organic, and just, you kind of lost your, there are times when you improv, I'm sure you remember or have experienced this. There are times when you improv where you've got an idea and you're going to use that idea, and then there are other times when you don't have an idea. It just happens. It just is this kind of organic back and forth that nobody is forcing, nobody is controlling. It's just the tennis ball going back between rackets. And it is very pleasurable. You come off stage and you go, man, it felt so good, because we weren't working. There was no effort. It was all sort of, and I think that's why it's called a flow state. That's why old Dr. Mike C, they called him.
Yeah, Mikey C.
Chick sent me high. Yeah, Mikey C. you described it as a flow, right? It's like this effortless movement of, like water. And I've definitely experienced that. But it's so interesting to me that nobody put a name to it until 1990, well within our lifetimes. Nobody was like, yeah, this is a thing.
Yeah. What did people must have called it something before that. I mean, In the Zone probably came before that.
I don't know. They call this guy the father of the flow, Mikey C.
The father of the flow is my favorite character in Dune Part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, he uses the voice real well.
He says, may your knife chip and shatter.
Yeah. Anyway, we got a...
may your pitch deck be hard to make.
Yes, exactly. May you file the papers all day and feel nothing. We got a story posted on our Discord by our old friend Spielberg Neufer, who's,
Shout out Spielberg Neufer. Shout out to everybody who's on that Discord. If you want to be on that Discord, patreon.com/wehaveconcerns, just $1 a month. Tell me about what Spielberg found for us today.
Well, it is relatively recent since anybody kind of described this as a psychological state, and it started to be studied. There have been numerous studies about the flow state, about being in the zone. But a new one has just been published recently that attempts to answer, I think, a fundamental question about what it is and where it comes from in the brain, because so many of the existing studies before have relied on people's self-reporting. Right. It's like, oh, did you feel like you were in the zone? Oh, yeah. Well, what was it like?
Oh, dude, it was like the zone.
How did you get there?
No, it was great. I was doing it, and then I was in the zone, and you should have been there, dog. It was unbelievable. It was the sickest thing in the world. How'd I get there, buddy? By being sick.
Exactly. Yeah, I just put the skateboard down and rode, baby.
By being the sickest dude with the freshest pitch decks.
Well, this new study that was conducted by folks, where were they? They were at the...
they were in the flow state.
They were in the flow state.
They were operating on another level. You want to know where they filed that paper from? They filed that paper from...
This is University of Drexel.
Okay.
The Creativity Research Lab at Drexel did a new study that has just been published in a scientific journal. Yeah, hey, that movie was way before 1990, and he's like going no. That's totally describing That's it.
Just, we call it the Chevy Chase syndrome, which is not the horrible thing you think it is. That's right. Another Chevy Chase thing.
Right. There's the Chevy Chase syndrome, and the Chevy Chase is an asshole.
Right.
There's two different ones. Anyway, this new study set about to kind of try to give some insight into what is actually happening in the brain when one achieves a flow state.
Hey, and I was going to say, aren't all studies about that? What's going on in the brain? Aren't most studies about that?
Well, sure. But there have been, up to this point, two competing theories as to what a flow state is. The first is that it is basically what we know as the default mode network. The default mode network is a way to describe a series of interconnected things in the brain that work when you're not doing anything else. You're daydreaming. You're awake, but you're not really doing it. The brain is sort of just it's idling.
Okay.
It's basically the default mode network is when you're not doing anything else. This is what your brain's doing.
Right.
Your brain's never not doing anything, but sometimes it's doing a lot less than normal.
Right.
But
gotcha.
So the default mode network is the base processes of the brain, and then the executive control network is your kind of self-conscious. It's how you direct your brain. So one of the theories is that you can sort of tell your default mode network to do something. It can be hyper-focused, basically. It's an idea of being hyper-focused. And this has been, I got to tell you, Anthony, my experience is that I love this feeling, is that oftentimes right before I go to sleep, or if I'm waiting for something, or if I have nothing else that can occupy my time, I will frequently decide to point my brain in the direction of a problem that I've been working on. I will kind of direct. It's not like I'm going to think about this really hard. It's, no, I'm about to go to sleep. Man, I've been working on this, story or this idea, or I've been, I have this cool idea for a podcast or whatever it is. And I'll just make my brain go, let's think about that, but not in a like conscious kind of, let's work on the problem. Let's sit down and chart it out. It's more like, I'm heading off to sleep. Let's think about it. And very frequently I'll have this sensation of like solving the problem.
Yeah.
Or coming up with a idea like out of nowhere. It'll just occur to me like, oh my gosh, that's the thing. That's the thing that should happen next in the story or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have experienced that, right? Where they tell you if you've been concentrating too hard on a problem, or if you've been trying too hard to do something, like walk away from it, go do something else. There's this, I'm reading
exercise.
Yeah. I'm reading this book called Wanderlust right now. It's Rebecca Solnit, who's a historian who writes a lot of really wonderful stuff. But this is the history of walking as it is connected to literature and academic thought. And this idea of like, this idea that was really popularized by like Wordsworth, where it's like you go walking in the British countryside and all of the answers come to you when you go walking in the British countryside, right? And this idea of like, if you just get up and you go for a walk and you leave your routine, or like you're saying, the authors that leave a notebook by their bed, because it's like, I know the idea is going to come to me at night. I know the idea is going to come to me in the shower. It's a shower thought, right?
Right. Yeah. Dude, I love that. When I was DMing that Dungeons and Dragons show I did, Dungeon Run, I would always go for a walk right before we were set to record. I had this routine where like I would think and write things out. And then I would go for a walk. And I had this hill right by my house that I would walk up this hill, and invariably, I would have this epiphany during the walk of like, oh my gosh, this is what I should do. Yeah. This is the thing that should happen. All the work that I had been doing for the whole week to like prepare myself, often I did more. There was more profound things that happened in that like 20-minute walk than in the days of hard work and writing and preparation that I had done before it.
But I think it's a mix of the two, right? Like, okay, so we're getting down into these theories of where flow comes from, but I think there is a certain amount of preparation, intense work and preparation that has to come before a flow state. I think there's this thing of like Michael Jordan can look at the camera and shrug because he shot
50,000 free throws.
Right, because he had a horrible relationship with his father, and he was out on the basketball court for 9 hours a day every day when he was a kid. And so now he doesn't have to think about it, right?
So you've come to the second most prevalent theory as to the origin of the flow state, and that is that intense practice results in the ability for the brain to generate a specialized network that allows you to do things without any executive control.
Gotcha.
So the way I relate to this theory is I feel like all of us have experienced this driving. Like we have driven, since we were 16 years old, so many times that you basically have practiced driving so many times in your life that you can just get in the car and do something completely different with your brain, and your body still drives the car to the destination.
Yes.
You didn't think about driving the car to the destination.
I find that terrifying. In all honesty, I find that terrifying when that happens. Like, I get it. It's like, oh yeah, there's music on or a podcast or whatever, and you get in, you start the car, and then whoops, I'm home. Man, how did I even get here? And some people are like, wow, that was great. There wasn't even any traffic. I think to myself, hey man, you should always be fully conscious of your actions when you're driving. hey, my dude, we don't want to blank on our entire commute. There's 100,000 death traps on the road.
Sure, but why quibble with creativity? You know what I mean? It's
the creative act of ignoring the drive, the creative act of being so bored while you're driving, you forget about your own safety and human life. I do think about this a lot because, particularly as somebody who works in freelance and works in a creative industry, like maybe there are people out there that identify with this. I'm sure there are. Pardon me. I'm allergic to work. I'm actually physically allergic to it. And maybe as a creative, you can understand that. I don't like, as a creative person, quote unquote, I get a lot of quibbles about my day rate, about how much I cost. And people will say, oh my gosh, but this is just a quick thing. It's just going to take you a couple hours. Why does it cost this much if it's just a couple hours? And it's that old adage of you're not paying
the Pablo Picasso thing.
It's the Picasso thing. You're not paying for the couple of hours. You're paying for the years and years of training that I've done. So I can stand and do this thing for you, and it gets done smoothly in a couple of hours.
The Picasso anecdote, just for folks that might not have heard it, is that someone walks up to Picasso sitting at a diner and says, hey, will you draw me something? And he scribbles something quickly and hands it to them. And he says, okay, that'll be, $1,000 or whatever it was. And they say, for that? But that just took you 5 seconds. And he says, no, my dear, it took me a lifetime.
Yeah. And then he got drunk and yelled at his wife.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the best part of the story. The best part of the story happened before he became abusive and terrible.
Yeah. That was that like, there's the cool story. You know what I mean? But I think there's something to that with the flow state, because you can't get into a flow state with something that makes you complete. Like I said, there's this thing they talk about in the book where it's the proper amount of eustress. It's the proper amount of positive stress. And that doesn't mean physical or emotional stress or you know what I mean? Not in the way that we think it does. It means it in terms of like, there's enough of a challenge. I think there's a reason. I think that's a reason why so many people get literally addicted to video games. Is video games are built around that. It's like how much difficulty is just enough difficulty to keep you engaged without being too difficult to make you feel like you have no idea what you're doing or frustrate you. And so to get into a flow state in a situation like the NBA Finals, right? Means that you have done things so many times that, you're a little stressed. It's the NBA Finals. But other than that, it's Thursday.
Right. Yeah, you've done this a billion times.
Yeah.
So these are the two competing theories. It's sort of wakeful dreaming, like a focused, a state of hyper-focus, or a state of sort of lack of state of sort of autopilot in that zone, right?
Yeah.
And so this study set out to kind of maybe get some sort of resolution to that dilemma. And how they did it was they recruited 32 jazz guitarists.
Oh,
as one does.
Beep boop beepity boop bop, baby.
Yeah. Let's get in here and fucking jam. Hey, I got an idea for a study, bro. Yeah, what is it? Let's get some dudes in here to fucking jam.
Give me every Django Reinhardt in a 50-mile radius.
That's right.
I'm ready.
Give me some guitarists, baby. I need to do some science.
Yeah.
So they got 32 jazz guitarists, age range 18 to 55. Some were highly experienced, some less so.
All of them insufferable.
That's right.
Listen, what they found what they found in this study is regardless of the level of proficiency, when you get 55 jazz guitarists into a room, that room is pretty obnoxious.
That's right. And lots of chest hair and chains, I'm guessing. So they hooked these guys and girls, and not just men, but guys and girls up to EEGs, brain scans, marking their brain activity. They put on background, drums and keyboards, and had them improvise guitar solos, jazz guitar solos for 90-minute sessions. Just fucking jam, bro.
Just do it, baby. Just go for a walk, baby. You know what I mean?
Get it.
Take it for a walk. Here we are. We're playing a fancy brunch.
You know what?
Let's start with a standard, and then we'll just do a little nod, and you can just go, baby, for like 15, 20 minutes.
I said 90 minutes, but however long you feel, baby. We got all day in this science academy.
Yeah. Science, listen. At Drexel, they believe the same thing that we believe on this podcast, which is science is a feeling.
Yeah.
Science is a feeling. And if you're not feeling it, that's not science. You know what I mean? You got to be feeling it. Otherwise, that's not science. So you do you.
So each of these guitarists had multiple tapes.
Ignore the fact that outside 54 other people are arguing about whether Charlie Christian is better than Wes Montgomery. Just ignore that. Ignore that.
Yeah. Don't bring that into this room.
Somebody's going to mention Pat Metheny and you just cover your ears. You just cover your ears. Focus in on this. I need you in the flow state here, but I want to go out. I want to go out and I want to talk about Benny Goodman. No, you can't go out and talk about Benny Goodman's band. You got to focus. You got to be in the flow state. But Charlie Christian, I know, I understand Charlie Christian and Benny Goodman. You can't do that right now. I need you in here. Also, I need them to shut up because if I hear about Charlie Christian one more time, we got 55 of you coming in. No, don't tell me what key you're tuned to. Do not tell me. I'm not interested in that. You just play.
Remember, put the little suction cups on your forehead and play the friggin' tune, buddy.
I'm not a jazz musician. I don't want to hear about how you're tuned. Jeff, how's your guitar tuned right now?
Standard. That's the only thing I do is standard.
Standard
tune.
I don't know
I tried to tune it to a different tuning one time, and it just frustrated me no end. And I'm not a good enough guitarist to have anything other than a standard tuning.
Hey, buddy, don't do that to yourself. I want you after this is over. I want you after we're done recording to ignore your children. I always want you to ignore your children because
thank you.
Because once again,
my team.
Yeah, I'm on your side here. I think children raise themselves. A lot of people say it takes a village. That village is a village of children.
It's Lord of the Flies village.
That's right. It's the Lord of the Flies village. That's right. And it's you know what village I think of when I think of a village that raises children? I think of Children of the Corn. That's the village.
Nothing bad happened there.
No, listen. Those kids, they had their own form of government. They were doing their own thing all day. I want you to ignore your kids. I want you to go. I want you to retune your guitar.
Yeah.
I want you to do it. Just dick around. Just really mess around with it, bud. Don't even worry about it.
I'm not sure I can do that, but I'll try for you, buddy.
I want you to do it. I want you to ignore your children for me. And when your children ask and your wife asks, why are you being so terrible? Be like, got to do it.
Anthony told me
Anthony said, today's
Take it
my
up with
day.
him. Yeah.
Today's my day.
I'm in the flow.
That's right.
All right, so they got these jazz guitars hooked up to EEGs, and they're jamming. And each take, they're asked to assess whether they felt like they were in the flow. But we're not going to just take their word for it. They also got an independent panel of judges, of jazz experts, to ascertain the participants' level of expertise and level of creativity.
What?
In their
a jazz test?
Jazz test.
That's not very jazz.
It's not. Yeah,
That's
true.
not very jazz. So this panel, I'd like to think that this panel was sitting in the room. I know they weren't, but I like to imagine them sitting in the room, judging and being like, no, just get into a flow state. We're just here listening. We're just here listening.
I'm just gonna take some notes while you're strumming.
Wait a minute. Who is that? Like you're hooking me up to these suction cups. Who's that watching me? Oh, that's just George Benson. What? Are you like famous jazz? Yeah, famous jazz guitarist George Benson. Yeah, it's just George Benson.
He's gonna judge everything you do.
He's just watching you while you play. What? Yeah, it's like, oh, and some other guy like comes in. It's like, hey, is this the right room? Sorry, I had to stop and get coffee. Kenny Burrell.
Somebody's been Googling jazz guitars while I'm talking.
What if I told you this was all off the dome? What if I told you this is 100% off the dome?
Anthony Carboni, secret jazz guitar fan.
I did. Okay, so two things. Number one, my dad is an obsessively ridiculous jazz dork.
Oh yeah.
And then cool. Number two, my roommate in New York for years was a dude from South Africa who came to the US to study jazz guitar.
So you got steeped in it.
And then he turned it, and then he came out the other side. He came to from a little town in South Africa to New York City to play the jazz guitar as a Orthodox Jewish boy. Came out the other side a punk rock guitarist.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that you go punk after studying, you study, that's kind of what we're talking about. Like you gotta learn the classics. You gotta get highly skilled, and then you just throw it all away and go, right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Just the 3 chords, please.
Yeah.
So, okay. They had a panel ascertain their level of jazzness.
Yeah.
Before,
how jazzy are you?
Yeah. They call it the Gosling scale. And
that's right.
They were like, how jazzy is this jazzer? And then they hooked him up and they said, okay, jazz away, bud. They knew how good they were beforehand.
Yeah, well, they kind of knew how much experience they had playing. They had how many years they had played and how proficient they were.
So was this panel rating the jazzers' talent beforehand or after the session? They were like listening to each session.
They listened to each session without knowing who played it to sort of have an independent, objective view. So the idea here being, I think, that you don't have a guy play and be like, man, I was in the flow and it's horrible and we just take their word for it, Right. That we try to ascertain.
If they were horrible beforehand and they go, I was in the flow, and you go, yeah, you probably were. Because we knew that you were horrible before you got in here.
Right. I guess you could be in the flow and be horrible, but the idea being that we're trying to equate this thing that you're talking about, which is, how much practice you've had, how proficient you are beforehand. Does that map to your flow state and brain activity?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that for the high experienced musicians, the musicians that had been doing it longer, that had been judged by the panel to be more skilled, high flow state was associated with increased activity in their auditory and visual areas of the brain, these areas in the left hemisphere of the brain, which is kind of counterintuitive because you think the right hemisphere of the brain is traditionally associated with creativity.
Sure.
But the right hemisphere, this auditory and visual area, and with reduced activity in key parts of the default mode network. So they actually found that the more often, the times that they reported being in the flow state, they actually, this thing called the superior frontal gyrus, which is literally the part of the brain that is most associated with self-awareness, was less active.
Yeah.
So you're basically shutting down.
You get out of your own way.
You get out of your own way.
You should that that thing. You're like we were saying earlier, your brain is braining and your body is bodying, and you are not getting in the way of that. The conscious you is not doing it. But that's interesting because it means go fuck yourself, first theory.
Exactly.
It means, hey, every scientist that thought it was the default mode network, you're a fool. What an idiot you are.
Shove
Boy,
it in
you
your
look
face.
dumb. You look so dumb. I hope that their studies were being done across the hall from one another. I hope that they were in the same department and they stuck their head out the door and they were like, hey, Wilkinson.
Yeah, what?
I just got the EKG readings back. And you're a fucking moron. And just no, look at this. Look at this. If you look at these, if you look at the peaks and valleys here, it spells out Wilkinson's garbage. It says, I eat Wilkinson's grant money for lunch.
How dare you?
How dare I what? How dare I what? Be so smart? Be so in the flow, Wilkinson?
God damn it.
I wasn't even thinking.
My whole life's work.
Yeah.
And you've taken a shit on it.
That's right. Pack your bags, Wilkinson. You're done. And then it slams the door and he turns around and goes, Wilkinson's actually a pretty nice guy. Actually, like when I had some rough times, like Wilkinson and his family were very, very kind to me.
You just hear you down the hall. I need jazz musicians.
We got them all.
Damn it.
We got them all, baby.
Connors.
You looking for Tal Farlow? We got him. Stanley Jordan? He's right in here.
Not Tal. Not Tal.
That's right.
So, yes, this seems to confirm the idea that second theory is really the case. It is a marriage of lots of practice and then getting out of your own way. Forgetting, learn
exactly how you get to Carnegie Hall.
It's fucking Yoda. You must unlearn what you have learned.
I think we know that. It's lovely.
And guess what? That predates the flow book. Also, Yoda before or a buddy Mikey
Yoda before Floda is what they say. No, I think this is another case of like now we have some research to back up what we felt. You know, the feeling in this case was true. The idea that like, hey, this is another acting thing, but you don't want to be the person going over your lines 2 minutes before you go on. If you don't know them, you don't know them.
Yes.
You drill yourself on your performance every day, every hour, every minute until you get to the theater, and then you put your fucking script away.
That's right. You have to. That's how I have always done it when I've been on stage. It's you learn it to the point where it's rote, where the words just come. There's no effort in thinking of them, and then once they just come naturally, the next line just comes to your brain naturally. Then you're able to have the freedom to use them in a way that is appropriate to the moment.
Yeah.
Because what your brain isn't doing is the work to get there. It's already there. And I think that's kind of the idea here across all disciplines, music, sports, what have you, is you're not thinking, oh my gosh, I have to put my arm this way to throw the basketball, let the ball roll off the back of my fingertips. That is all ingrained in you. It has been driven into you through repetition. And you can that is going to happen on its own. And what your brain can do is sort of be in the moment to react to all of those other tiny variables that have nothing to do with the mechanics of the doing.
Yeah. I had a guitar teacher when I was a kid who told me like, hey, I know you want to start playing songs. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you that we're not going to start playing songs. We're going to start playing songs real quick because that's what's going to make it interesting to you. He's like, but any song you want to learn, he's like, I'm happy to teach you, but you have to come in with the lyrics fully memorized.
Right.
He's like, you have to. He's like, because you can't play along with the song if you don't know the lyrics, your brain will screw it up.
Huh.
You will try to remember a word and you will screw up a chord. Like you have to.
Right.
Know the lyrics, know all the background stuff. be. But here's the thing. We're talking about people who are operating at the top of their game, who are like, whatever. There is a flow state that comes along with learning. That's what makes learning enjoyable. And it's not just really brilliant people like Barbara who makes the good pitch deck. It's, and shout out to Barbara's pitch decks one more time. I mean,
the
one
best.
more time. Seriously.
I'll sit down in front of that pitch deck any day of the week.
Holy shit, dude. What is this meeting scheduled for an hour? Make it an hour and a half. I didn't know Barbara was doing the pitch deck. Holy shit. No, it'll run right into another meeting I have, and I love it. Yeah. She puts the power in PowerPoint. You know what I'm saying? That's right. But she doesn't put the point in meeting because nobody does. So there is a way to do it when you're learning, and you'll find that like a lot of people, that's why it's sometimes harder to learn things on your own than it is if you have a teacher or if you have a buddy, is when you're learning things on your own, there's no one to watch you to make sure you're always performing at that heightened level. And for some people, for a beginning guitarist, that heightened level might be like, there's that one note in the middle of Ode to Joy that goes off the two strings that we know. You have to go to the third string. And that's tough. That's tough for somebody who's starting out. But for somebody who's starting out, who does that, who's drilling it and gets it right, that's just as much of a flow state, right? And then it's up to a teacher or a mentor to look at you and be like, cool, no more drilling that. You need to move up now. And, because I have a tendency when I'm learning something where it's like, no, I can get it more perfect.
Yeah.
And the teacher will be like, no, you could, but you're going to suck all the joy out of this. We need to move you on.
And this
to
is
else.
Literally an ode to joy.
Yeah. What an irony that would be. What an absolute, how would you play an ode to joy? You don't know the feeling, sir. Sir, you have no idea what that ode is to. You have no concept of it.
Yeah.
So you have to always be operating a little above your own level, right? Using that stuff that you've already learned that you don't even know that you've learned, stuff that's become ingrained, and then you have to challenge it. The other thing that I think of that's like, that really makes this, okay. So the Nintendo EAD, they used to be called R&D4. They're the Mario team, right?
Yeah.
The Mario team has a specific philosophy that I think we've talked about before. It's the 4-point philosophy to a Super Mario Brothers level. If you're playing a Super Mario game, the Super Mario game is going to do, the level is going to do 4 things. And that's how they know it's a good level. First, it's going to introduce a concept. Second, it's going to force you to use that concept precisely, right? So level 1 of Super Mario Brothers is the first game. You got to learn how to jump on and over things, right? Then you go to level 1, 2. That's the underground, right? And level 1, 2, the da-na-na-na-na-na. That's taking everything that you've learned about jumping on and over things, and it is making it much harder, but it's not introducing anything new, right?
Right.
You just have to do it in a better way. Then the third level is always a twist on that. It's a bridge with mushrooms and weird platforms that go up and down, right? And I've never seen enemies like this before, and I've always had a ground to run along, and now I don't have a ground. And then the fourth level is taking all of that stuff and then applying it to all the other things that you've learned in other levels, right? And that's how you make a good Super Mario level. And if you play any level up through new games today that they make, you will see it in every level. Even though they're not divided into world 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore, every level will have sections like that. And it's because that's how you get people into a flow state. Teach them something basic, make it a little harder, make it put a little twist on it, and then combine it with all the knowledge you already have.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're trying to learn things on your own, it's hard to do that. It's hard to get into that flow state on your own, but anybody can get into the flow state. And I think it's so cool that this study is kind of like, yeah, dude, that's exactly what's happening. It's using everything you've learned.
I think it's kind of a good news, bad news situation. I mean, the good news is, yeah, you can work toward getting into this flow state. It is a accomplishable thing. It's not this ephemeral, oh, well, I just have to get lucky and inspiration has to strike. And I don't know, I'm infused with the spirit of the gods. No, you can create a situation where it's more likely to happen. The bad news is it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes work.
It takes work.
It takes practice.
Not just to learn the skill, but I think it also takes learning how to learn and learning how to practice appropriately.
Right.
Which is a tough thing. That's the thing that I have the most problem with, is learning how to properly practice something.
Yeah.
I get very bogged down.
I wish school did a better job of teaching that to young people. I wish that was more of their goal. You know, is teach you how to learn rather than test you on what you've learned. But that's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different topic.
There's a great quote that this article ends with that I think sums it up. And again, many, many years before the Flow State book, Charlie Parker, the great, Bird, the great saxophonist, jazz saxophonist.
I only know guitarist.
Yeah, you certainly do.
I've never.
His quote was, "You got to learn your instrument, then you practice, and then when you finally get up there on the bandstand, forget all that and just wail.
Just wail, baby.
Just wail.
Just hook yourself up to that weird science cap and just wail for 90 minutes.
Just wail, baby."
Can you imagine being the researcher that had to sit in on all the sessions, and do you think that they were probably divided into teams, or they probably did it over a long period of time, but what if they did it over a period of just a week? What if they got all these 55 people in a week, and it was your job to listen to the worst people?
Yeah, you get the noobs.
Yeah, you were the intern, and you were like, hey, Shelby, we need you to get in here and listen to this one. I won't do it.
All right.
College credit, Shelby. Remember, college credit.
I'm excited to contribute to our understanding of the flow state.
Hey, Shelby,
can I listen to the guy from the record that we all enjoyed, that we actually had to pay money for him to, not the kid that we found that was playing on the street corner? You're
going to listen to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to listen to the kid.
Right.
And listen, you're gonna have to listen. You know how these jazz guitarists are.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have to pretend like it's very good.
Yeah, I've been doing that.
If he looks over and he sees that dead look in your eyes of, I came to your show because I'm your friend.
Yeah.
Or because I came to your show because your show is a study and I'm getting paid. If he sees that look, it's going to put him out of the flow state.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, what we need you to do is we need you to watch La La Land, and we need you to be Act 2 Emma Stone. Okay?
All doe-eyed and excited.
That's right. End of Act 1, beginning of Act 2 Emma Stone. That's what we need. You last time you were very much an Act 3 Emma Stone.
Well,
you looked
sure.
like you just walked in with Tom Everett Scott. And we can't have that, okay? No Tom Everett Scotts in this house. Not in this lab.
I guess we got to call Tom Everett Scott and tell him not to show up anymore.
That's right. But tell him we love American Werewolf in Paris.
I think this is one of those ones, we do these from time to time, where the results are not super surprising, but they are, I think, hard data that confirms an intuition.
That's right? Unless you were those
valuable
default mode nerds.
Well, I got to say, like I said at the beginning, I have found that I am able, I don't know if maybe it's not a flow state, but I find I'm able to sort of put myself into a creative and make myself more accessible to creative thoughts by sort of just pointing my brain in a direction.
Sure.
But, I guess science says I'm wrong.
Science says eat shit, dude.
Guess I can't do that anymore.
Nope. You can't ever put yourself in a creative state again unless you do it in exactly this way. Sorry. Science figured it out and now you're stuck.
Man,
But no, you're right. I love this. I love that we have confirmation on how this works and a reminder of how this works. Because I think in particular, we're in a very frustrating time in the last few years, and I think people are trying to force themselves more and more into like these, like, I'm going to have a good time, I'm going to relax, I'm going to learn something, like I'm going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're trying to like force it because, you know, we're all sort of in like weird moods.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that it's not forcing it, it's just kind of like letting it happen, and it will happen.
The addendum to this study, which is really interesting, most people don't even notice it. It's at the bottom. They
read the results upside down and they were wrong. I hate when that happens.
And then by the PS, oops. No, it was the fact that for weeks after they conducted the study, 32 jazz guitarists kept showing up and being like, "Hey, do you want us to play some more?
Yeah. Hey,
do you need any more? Is the study over, or can we could
still,
I could?
Is that $5 and free cookies offer still going?"
Weeks they would just show up. Long line of them, just arguing about those names that you said earlier.
Yeah, like Johnny Smith versus Stanley Jordan, something like that.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Those are the names I said.
Like one of those things. I did Google it. I Googled it, you motherfuckers. Of course I did. Of course I Googled it. Listen, thank you so much for listening, folks. We would love to hear from you about what you think about this story. And the place we'd love to hear about it the most would be on our Discord. Like, we got
Fantastic
social media.
Place. Oh, yeah. No,
we got it.
We got it. We don't like it.
No, we never touch the stuff. But if you head to the Discord, people are not just talking about this episode. They're talking about every other episode that they've been listening to. They're talking about all kinds of stuff. They're talking about books they're reading, games they're playing, TV, all that stuff. It's a great place to hang out. And you can get there just by going to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
It's so easy. It's only $1 a month to get access to the Discord, $12 a year. That seems very inexpensive. Also, if you have more than that you'd like to give us to make sure the show
take it,
we will, and you'll get more cool stuff in exchange, including bonus content, bonus episodes, that fun conversation that you hear us having before the episode starts. You get those as like a whole other episode, plus video and all kinds of cool stuff. Check it out. Patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.